Okay, the importance of salt. We talk a lot about the 90 essential nutrients, but in real life we spend a lot of time talking about salt. And it's because out of the 90 essential nutrients, 60 of those are minerals. The two most important, in my opinion, I mean, we could talk a lot about calcium, we could talk a lot about selenium, especially, we could talk a lot about zinc, but the whole nutritional pie falls apart without salt. Sodium chloride, those two minerals. That's why I would say those are the two most important nutrients. And I talk about this a lot because people come to us and their stomachs are not working properly, their guts are not working properly, they're screwed up, they got a list of problems. I ask these questions when we're sitting down to figure them out, like figure their health out. So what I most need to know, do they have all their organs? Are they on any prescription drugs? Are they on any street drugs? Do they avoid any foods? Do they take any supplements? How tall are they? How much do they weigh? I need a general idea of what's going on in their body. Some other questions, depending on the answers to those initial questions. But with all of that, the people who have the worst responses to those questions, generally they've been avoiding salt for a long time, and usually we can call people out on it and say, hey, you need salt, right? It doesn't take long to actually train somebody to see it. You can see it if they're really dry. You can see it if they're really like ashy. You ever see somebody who's really white, really gray? There's all kinds of things that are going wrong in the body, meaning a lot of these experts will be able to look at them and say, yeah, that person has this deficiency and that person has this going on and that going on. And that's great, but their body's not working properly because their stomach's not working properly, and so it's not breaking food down properly, and it's not absorbing nutrients properly, especially minerals. It's not using salt. Without salt is the raw material to make stomach acid. There's two major components to this conversation. First is about sodium, second is about chloride, right? Sodium, your body needs to fire nerve impulses and to get water in and out of cells, and that's a super simple way of saying it, right? But this is the sodium-potassium pump. These are your electrolytes, right? These are what help your body carry charges around your body and fire nerve impulses, all nerve impulses. That's like what goes on in your brain, it's what goes on in your motor system. This is sodium. It's extremely important. I'm very curious as to why on the labels it only singles out sodium, though it should just say salt, because sodium comes with chloride. And chloride, I would think, is, equally important to that. You think your nerves firing properly is important. Well, chloride is what your body uses to make stomach acid. This is the raw material your body uses to make stomach acid. Stomach acid is extremely important. Your body needs to have an acid stomach to break down the food that goes into it. I mean, people in my generation seen the magic school bus before they went to school. Like, it's pretty straightforward. You chew the food, goes down the pipe, goes into the stomach. Stomach's supposed to be a bag of acid, breaks that food up, goes into the intestine. Some stuff gets used, absorbed. Some stuff that doesn't, and goes out the other end. Like, that's the child's version of it. Yet the adults that we deal with, I guess, have forgotten this. Or maybe they just don't understand the link between salt and stomach acid, right? We're told not to use salt, yet salt is one of the most important throughout history's substances, not nutrients, substances. I mean, soldiers were paid in salt. This is why it's called a salary. This is history. This is not a sales presentation per se. This is information tied into a sales presentation. But we're not selling salt. We're selling nutrition. And our nutrition won't work without salt, because you need stomach acid. You need a strong stomach acid to absorb calcium. You need a strong stomach acid to absorb B12. You need B12 to absorb iron. You need these things to be a healthy person. You're coming to me for results. You're buying product off me for results. I want you to get those results. Your stomach needs to work properly. This is huge. And people say, my doctor said, well, I get it. Your doctor said it. I get it. Has your doctor helped you be healthy? Is the real question. I mean, we're in alternative health for a reason. they're not going to recommend what we recommend, and we're not going to recommend what they recommend in most cases. We recommend salt, right? We recommend using the wisdom of every farmer on earth, right? There's not a farmer on earth that can be profitable without salt block for their animals. You don't give animals salt, you can watch what happens. They'll start to, especially big animals, especially livestock, they're going to start to eat the cages, they're going to start to eat the tools, the gloves, and gnaw on each other's horns, and they'll start eating the clay and the dirt and the mud. It's called pica in animals. It's called, pica's the, the disease, cribbing's the action, cribbing. It's called munchies in humans. Most of the reason that people crave junk food is it's the only place they're giving their body salt. You've taught your body it's the only place to get salt, even a chocolate bar. Lots of salt in a chocolate bar. Chips, anything, whatever, name it. It's your junk food aisle. It's got salt in it, mostly as a preservative, but also as a taste thing. Salt is what makes food taste good. This is why people who are on these restrictive diets, they go out and they binge on junk food. Again, it's the only place your body knows where to get salt. You can eat fresh organic food. Your body cannot break it down without stomach acid. I'm not a scientist, and you don't need to be. People come in with stomach pain, I give them a glass of salt water. It's free. It's free to them. Costs me a few cents. I'm using Himalayan pink salt, by the way. You can use any salt other than table salt. But you actually can use table salt if you just want to fix your stomach. I just wouldn't recommend using table salt because I don't think it's a healthy product. People come in with saying things like, for years they've been like, they lay down at night and they got foam coming out of their mouth. For years. Years. I can fix that right in front of them. Those kind of people, they might need 3-4 thick glasses of salt water until they... By the way, this is one of the most amazing things. This deserves to be a 10-20 minute video, by the way, salt. I mean, I spend this time with most of my clients. I spend this time with most of my prospects. I spend this time, most of the consultation time, not most, but a huge amount of it is spent about salt. Again, if they go home and they don't start using salt, they're still going to have digestive problems. If they have digestive problems, they're still going to have health problems. Period. Period. So even if they get a benefit from the health products that they buy from me, it's going to be diminished by the lack of success due to a lack of salt. Right? This is the spark plug to the whole thing. Like, this is like what makes the whole pie work. You don't put salt in the 90 essential nutrients. It's not the mighty 90. Right? This completes it. So one of the best ways to test this is, Ben Fuchs, by the way, told me this. He might have said it live as well, but he told us to take a glass of water, clean water, and fill it up with salt water, meaning make it really, really cloudy, stir it up so it's really thick, it's pink basically, and you take a little tiny sip of it. And when you've never done it before, it's really weird. But, and I'm talking a little sip, like you would like hot sauce, like you're taking a careful little sip. Just dabbing your mouth on it and kind of working it around your mouth. Take another little sip. This is really important, by the way. This is one of those things where it's like, do it. Do it. If you've never done this before, do it. Like, if you are experiencing health problems, of any kind of health problems, you would be blown away how much better you can feel by drinking a glass of salt water. Right? You have a stomach pain right now, headache, anything, right now. Glass of salt water. Take a little sip of it. Another little sip of it. Now, if it tastes extremely, offensively salty, take another little sip. Test that out. If it's still offensively salty, then okay, don't do it. But try the next person. Most people, especially when you call them out and you see them and they're gray, or they've got stomach problems or headaches or brain fog or acne, these are giveaways for me for essential fatty acid deficiency. That would mean two things to me on the street practically here, either an inflamed intestine and lack of salt. I'll give that person a glass of salt water right there. Those people tend, by the way, you tell them just to drink it, and they don't do that little sip thing. In real life, they tend to just drink it. And they don't tend to, if you don't hype it up, they don't really notice it. Like, if you're like, okay, be careful about it, because it's extremely salty water. If I were to drink that water right, I'd be like, whoa, because I'm topped up on my salt. This is the whole thing. People who have been avoiding salt, when you give them a glass of salt water like that, they not only can take it, it tastes amazing. That's what Ben Fuchs told me, that it tastes phenomenal, incredible. Your body knows the value of salt. If you've been deprived, that's why junk food tastes so good. It's not the sugar in it. Sugar is generic. It's the salt in it. The seasoning, this is incidental. It's the salt in it, especially when they can bury lots of salt into junk food. Promise, that's the magic ingredient. Just put salt in your food and you'll have less cravings for junk food, for sure. For sure. If you're craving junk food, drink a glass of salt water right there. You don't even need the food. There's other things that you could take as well, but this is something that's practically free that can really help it. So someone who's drinking that water and they really need it, it's going to taste phenomenal, and that's why they kind of just gulp it down. And people who are in severe like pain, or they have had chronic stomach problems or digestive problems, stuff like that, they usually can drink 2, 3, the record is 4. The record in our store in Windsor is 4. Thick, not tall, thick glasses. This is just disposable cup stuff. Thick glasses of salt water. As thick as we can make them, like really. And those people go home different people. Those people probably go home and, you know, keep in mind, your stomach doesn't have acid in it. What happens? Food starts to ferment in there, right? This is where you get belching and reflux and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, and the calcium's not being absorbed, which you need to close it, to contract every single muscle in the body, and there's a little muscle on top of the stomach there that connects to the esophagus. It's a sphincter there. That if your body's calcium deficient and it's playing musical chairs with calcium, it might take it away from that, and you might get acid spilling up there. And even weak acid will really burn the esophagus. Meanwhile, the stomach is lined and it's able to tolerate the it's supposed to be extremely strong acid of the stomach. So, I mean, this is a bit of preliminary here. I even wanted to mention a couple other things. It's in the Bible here too. I mean, a lot of people connect to that, right? This is like, go forth and be salt. You know, like, you know, they're the salt of the earth. You know, even like Leviticus here. That was, you know, Matthew. In Leviticus, you know, every oblation of your meat offering shall you season with salt. And I mean, a lot of people aren't following Leviticus, and I'm not advocating that for real, but they're saying thousands of years ago, put salt on all your meat. Meat's particularly hard to digest. I have a hard time digesting meat. I use even more salt. I consume lots of salt, by the way. People ask how much salt. Lots of salt is really the answer. You'd be surprised how much your body wants when you give it what it actually is craving, instead of supplementing it with junk food. Supplementing it with junk food. I hope that phrase sticks. Supplementing it with junk food. If you stop supplementing yourself with junk food, which is extremely expensive, by the way, and you're basically just paying for the salt, and you just give yourself the salt by putting it in your water, yes. By putting it in your water, yes. It's delicious, yes. Just a pinch, yes. Thickens it up. People that I teach how to do that, by the way, they usually comment they're like, I'm surprised by it. Now that I do that, how much and how often my body says, more salt, keep going, more salt. And you can take, by the time you get down to the end of it, sometimes it gets a little bit thick, but if it's offensively salty, you just don't drink it. That's the easiest thing. I mean, keep in mind with a salt block and that thing with the farmer needs a salt block, but it doesn't have to tell the cow how much to drink or lick. The cow will lick exactly how much it wants. You couldn't do anything about that to change that. You couldn't force that cow to take another lick after it's done. You couldn't hold its head down and make it take another lick. You couldn't. If I cooked you a dish that was too salty, you couldn't eat it. It doesn't matter how well-mannered you are and how well-intentioned you are. You cannot eat it. Your body will not let you eat it. And you can try that for yourself. Just spill the salt shaker on your food and see if you can eat it. You cannot eat it. Your body is extremely good at letting you know how much salt it needs. Trust that. You have to teach it that by getting away from the junk food and teaching it, okay, I'm going to put some in the water in the morning instead. Keep in mind, salt water is the first thing I put in my body in the morning. People ask that a lot. Salt water. Right? Then I'll drink a coffee or a coffee berry tea thing, one of those things by Youngevity, and the Rico Life and the Sozo that come in the coffee mega pack there. I love those things. After that, I'm going to have another glass of salt water before my Beyond Tangy Tangerine 2.0. Daily. Daily. People say, oh, it sounds like a lot of work. Well, keep in mind, go to the National Geographic or Discovery Channel or Dr. Waldek's book Immortality, many other sources as well, to primitive people who are doing very well. Primitive people who tend to be sturdy, robust people who live a long time. Those people tend to drink a beverage. It's all types of different things. Obviously, it's water-based, but it's all types of different things to what types of drink it is. But it tends to have a hunk of rock salt in it. A hunk of rock salt in it. All day, every day for their entire lives. All day, every day for their entire lives. Right? Japanese consume far more salt than we do, and they measure better than we do in basically every metric you can throw at them health-wise. They're obviously slipping in recent years by adopting Western habits. And they obviously have different habits other than just an increased salt consumption. But I promise you, if you try it in your life, and especially if you're one of my clients or prospects or whatever, and you are looking to buy products or you've already bought products, I promise you, if you want to do all that and listen to everything else that we say, everything else that we advise you do everything else. You know, you don't do this. You don't listen to your doctor. Sorry, you do listen to your doctor on this one thing, and you don't put salt on your food. And you know, say that you're drinking alkaline water. You need to put salt in that water. It's going to rob your body of minerals. You know, it's not remineralized. If you don't do these things, you're not going to get the results you're looking for. I promise it. It's that simple. So we're approaching 20 minutes. I don't want to go that far into it. You can go far into it biochemically. You know, we could go far into the stories of how and why this got kind of taken away from the public. Like, why are people against it? That's interesting itself. I recommend people look into that. I really do. But other than that, I hope this video is been useful for, you know, probably to whoever is listening. Most people is probably hearing it again, right? I hope it's useful to hear it again, because that's why I recorded it, because it's so important, and it took me a while to really get it. And that all those little things there and examples, it's just different ways to illustrate the importance of salt, because we haven't been taught this, because we've been taught the exact opposite. So we need to build a little bit of a case here, but I think the most important one is actually trying it yourself, really. If you've been depriving yourself of salt, add it back into your life. If you haven't been depriving yourself of salt, try that saltwater thing too. See if it tastes amazing to you. If it does, you haven't been using enough salt. You'll probably feel good that day. You know, you'll probably feel, you know, have a really good feeling bowel movement or sleep or something. People report all kinds of stuff after they've been topped up on their salt. That's what it is, topping up. I top up daily. And I hope everybody learns to make sure that they do as well. We want to live long, healthy lives, so we got to make sure our vehicles are working well. So, salute to everybody. Thank you for watching this whole thing. I hope not only that you implement this information, but that you spread it to others, especially as it's one of the cheapest things that we can do to really impact basically everybody's lives and ripple that throughout our entire society. Thanks a lot.